The Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful little girl who fell in love with everyone who saw her, but her maternal grandmother remained the one who loved her the most. Her grandmother gave her everything she wished, and once she gave her a red velvet robe. This robe suited her so perfectly that she never took it off, so people called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother said to her, "Come, Little Red Riding Hood, there is a piece of cake and a bottle of wine. Take them to your grandmother. She is sick and weak and she will feel better if she eats cake and wine. Come on, go quickly before the air warms up. As you go, walk gently and calmly and do not run on the way so as not to fall and break the bottle, and then your grandmother will not find what to eat. And when you enter her room, do not forget to say hello to her in the morning and do not look around before doing so." Little Red Riding Hood said to her mother, "Well, I'll be careful." And I helped her pack things. Her grandmother lived in the forest, 1.5 miles from the village, and as soon as Little Red Riding Hood entered the forest she was met by a wolf. Little Red Riding Hood did not know how insidious and evil this animal was, so she was never afraid of him. The wolf said, "Have a nice day, Little Red Riding Hood." "Thank you, wolf." "Where are you going at this early hour, Little Red Riding Hood?" "I'm on my way to my grandmother." "What are you carrying in your apron?" "Cake and wine. Yesterday was the day of baking, so I'm going to go to my sick grandmother to give her something good that will help her recover. Where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood?" Little Red Riding Hood replied, "She lives in a house about 1 mile away in the forest. Her house is located under the 3 huge oak trees, and the walnut tree is near it. You must know that house." The wolf thought to himself, "What an easy-to-chew meal. She is a plump little one, she will be tastier than her old grandmother. I have to act cunningly in order to get both." So he walked a short distance next to Little Red Riding Hood, and then he said to her, "Look, Little Red Riding Hood, how beautiful the flowers are here. Why don't you look around? I also think that you have not heard the little sparrows chirping so wonderfully. You are seriously walking in a straight line like you are going to school, while here in the forest everything is so joyful." Little Red Riding Hood raised her eyes, and when she saw the sun's rays swaying here and there and permeating the trees and beautiful flowers growing everywhere, she thought, "I think I should collect a bouquet of beautiful little flowers for my grandmother. She will be very pleased with them, and it's too early, I'll be able to get to her in time." And so I got out of the way, ran into the forest to look for flowers, and got deeper and deeper into the forest. Meanwhile the wolf ran towards her grandmother's house, knocking on the door. "Who's the knocker?" The wolf replied, "I'm Little Red Riding Hood, I brought you a cake and wine, open the door." Grandma shouted, "Lift the latch, I'm very weak, I can't get up." The wolf lifted the latch and the door opened, and without uttering a word he went straight to the grandmother's bed and swallowed her, then got dressed, put on her hat, laid down in her bed, closed the curtains. Little Red Riding Hood was running in the forest, picking flowers, and when she finished collecting what flowers she could carry, she remembered her grandmother, and set off in the direction towards her house. Little Red Riding Hood was amazed when she found the door of her grandmother's house open, and when she entered the room she had a strange feeling, and she said to herself, "Oh my God! How upset I feel today, although at other times I like spending time with my grandmother very much." Little Red Riding Hood shouted, "Good morning." But the answer did not come, so she turned towards the bed, opened the curtains, saw her grandmother lying on top of the bed with her hat almost covering her whole face and looking very strange. She said, "Oh my God! What a big ear, Grandma." The wolf replied, "To hear you well, my child." She said, "And what are those big eyes?" "To see you well, dear." "And what big hands these are?" "To give you a good hug." "Oh, my God! But, Grandma, what a scary big mouth this is." "To devour you well." As soon as the wolf said these words, he suddenly jumped out of bed and swallowed Little Red Riding Hood. Having felt full, the wolf again lay down on top of the bed, fell asleep, began to fall asleep loudly. A fisherman passed by the house just then, and he thought to himself, "The old woman is falling asleep loudly. I have to check if you want anything." So the hunter entered the room, And when he got to the bed he saw the wolf asleep, and he said, "There you are, old bastard. I've been looking for you for a long time." He was about to be shot, but it occurred to him that he might have swallowed the grandmother, that he could save her, so he grabbed a pair of scissors, began to open the sleeping wolf's belly, and after making 2 holes he saw Little Red Riding Hood shining. He made 2 more holes, and the girl got out of the wolf's belly, shouting, "Oh my God!" How I was panicking. It was very dark in the wolf's belly. The old grandmother then came out of the wolf's belly alive and well, but she was breathing with difficulty. Little Red Riding Hood ran quickly to bring large stones with which to fill the wolf's belly, and when the wolf woke up, he tried to escape, but the heavy stones prevented him from advancing and he immediately fell to the ground, dying. All 3 felt joy. The hunter skinned the wolf's fur, returned home, grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine that Little Red Riding Hood had brought, regained her strength, but Little Red Riding Hood thought to herself, "I will never get out of the way walking alone to wander through the forest when Mom tells me about it." It is said that another day Little Red Riding Hood was on her way to her grandmother carrying her cakes, and another wolf met her, talked to her and tried to lure her out of the way, but Little Red Riding Hood was alert this time, and she went on her way, and told her grandmother that a wolf met her, and he said to her, "Good morning." But his glances were evil, and if it weren't for the fact that she was walking on a public road he would definitely devour her. Her grandmother said, "We will close the door so that he does not come inside." After that the wolf knocked on the door, shouted, "Open the door, Grandma. I'm Little Red Riding Hood and I've brought you cakes." But Grandma and Little Red Riding Hood didn't say a word or open the door, so the wolf went around the house 2 or 3 times, and in the end jumped over the roof of the house, determined to wait for Little Red Riding Hood to return to her house at night, and then he would sneak up behind her and swallow her in the dark. But Grandma realized what the wolf was planning. There was a big stone basin in front of her house, and she said to Little Red Riding Hood, "Take the bucket, Little Red Riding Hood, I made a sausage yesterday. Carry the water in which you cooked the sausage to the basin, and pour it into it." Little Red Riding Hood carried the water until the tub was full, etc. The smell of sausage crept into the wolf's nose, and he began to trace the smell with his nose, looked down, and finally stretched his neck down so that he could not keep his balance, began to slide, fell from the roof of the house into the big tub, and drowned. Little Red Riding Hood returned home happily, and no one dared to hurt her again.